Welcome to Sparks of Love. My name is Jerry Lynn Sparks, and today we have a special guest in studio. We are very honored to have Pauly Guglielmo here.
It is the honor is all mine. This is so exciting.
I've been thinking about this all week long because I know we're going to have fun. Every time I see Pauly, there's fun in the room.
Yeah.
Like that follows, like Pigpen and Charlie Brown, the cloud of dust follows him around.
Oh, yeah.
With Pauly, the cloud of fun follows him around.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good to hear because my mother used to tell me a black cloud followed me around. So
That's a hell of an analogy, by the way, you say that he's Pigpen.
I have a psychology degree, so now I'm going to dive into that. No, I'm just kidding.
You want to know the best thing about that is one time when I worked on the radio, I worked for the Brother Wease show, and Wease decided we should call my mom to tell her that caused me angst. That I still think.
She ruined you for life.
And we called her, and she doubled down.
My God.
Yeah, he was like, he's like, listen, Mrs. Guglielmo, you've really caused your son a lot of hurt over the years. I think it'd be great if you told him you didn't really mean that. And she goes, he does have a black cloud.
Oh, you can't say that. Why would you say that about your son?
And she cited all these examples from childhood where I just had bad luck.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. I'm going to have to pull that clip up. That's too funny. Oh my gosh. Well, from my perspective, you were Mr. Sunshine. And so I want to give everyone the background of how I know Pauly. So it was about a year and a month ago now. I saw this little tiny ad in the paper or announcement, and it said that local businessmen had won some type of New York State grant, and it said Craft Cannery in Bergen. I'm like, Bergen? Bergen is like right down the street from me. And so I read the whole article, and I had just finished having a party at New Year's Eve. And I had made this sauce that I had been working on a little bit here and there. It wasn't like I was determined to build the sauce. It was like, I cook out here, cook out there. And I finally had reached what I thought was the winning sauce. And here was this little article saying there's a cannery 4 miles from my house. And so I thought, he's a CEO of a company. He's not going to have time for me, but I'm just going to take a chance. It's the holidays, and message him. And immediately you replied. I was astonished. And, I talked your head off about barbecue and my son, Jared, who has autism, and the reasons that I wanted to try this. And he was so supportive. He was like, go for it. Let's do it. And I'm a small canner. I'm not like Wegmans. I'm not like this. And so a lot of people have said no to me, and you could have easily, but you didn't. And so that's how I met Pauly. And then
I remember that phone call. I absolutely remember talking to you. I remember right where I was, and I remember it did last a long time, and I mean that in a good way. Right. I mean that in a good way. But, I got to hear the whole life story and learn all about Jared, and it was just it was a wonderful phone call. And I thought, I do have a lot of first phone calls with people, and sometimes they go somewhere, and sometimes they don't. And I knew that was going to go somewhere.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the coolest thing was when we did our first run, I was able to bring Jared out. And I know, Scott, I gave you some photos of it. I brought my son with autism to the factory, and you can see it there, where he got to see his dream become a reality. And I choked up right now. I didn't know that was coming.
I remember this too, handing him that sauce.
Yes.
and he did seem surprised, right? He couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and he had been talking about having his own food company for years, Pauly. He wanted to do smoothies. That was the original thing, was to do smoothies. And I actually went to Young Lion Brewing, and I talked to them at some party I was at somebody's house on Cuca Lake, and they told me how difficult it is to do that. It's not impossible, but I have a day job. I don't have that kind of time. And so his favorite food is barbecue wings. And so I thought, okay, Jared, we're going to have to pivot away from smoothies, but maybe, we can do this. And he had been asking me for years, like I'm talking since his sister, who was 15 at the time, she's a year younger than him, got a job at Tim Hortons. And we went to pick her up one day, and he goes, what? My sister has a job? Like he thought that people just get jobs when they're adults. And he saw his younger sister getting a job and that competitiveness in him. And he was hurt. He wanted that. And I tried Special Touch Bakery, but he can't be around machinery. Like all the things that everyone thinks, oh, Rochester's got this and that. Yes, they do, but you have to have a certain level. So your product and the way you do it is perfect for him because he can just come into the warehouse, pick up, and then we go and deliver.
Yeah.
There's no machinery that he could get entangled in. It's just the perfect thing for him. Yeah. And it checked off the box.
Yeah, and you know what? Everything you just talking about this, and I'm sure you've talked about Jared. I've listened to your first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
You only have
2 have released so far.
2 have released so far.
Yeah.
Okay. I know it's not in real time, so I don't want to reference today.
Yeah.
Go Bills, by the way.
Go Bills.
I had the Bills shirt on, but it's blowing around Churchville because I lost it.
Go
so
Bills, and the Cowboys suck.
well, look what I have, though. I wore my Americana boots. So these are my Bills colors for the day. So I don't know if people can see. So that's my shirt's lost.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Red, white, and blue, America's
Red, white,
team.
and blue.
Buffalo.
That's there on the wall.
That's right.
Take that, Texas.
Yeah. But I knew that you had a story.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you do this, when you want to put a product out in the market, everybody comes and they have a great product.
Yeah.
And they do. Everyone can make a good sauce. I mean, you could Google
Evan can't.
a sauce.
Evan can't make a good sauce.
I'm sure he could. I'm sure he could.
I could make the best sauce of any sauce. Look, I think I could.
That's a podcast sauce
think I could.
contest.
Don't do that impression on this show.
You ask an Italian between the difference between a smoothie and a pasta, they can't tell the difference. It's the same thing.
We're going to have a podcast cook-off.
Yeah.
I'll burn the place down. That'll do it.
But you have like a unique thing that makes it different than just hey, you got to try this. Is the best sauce you've ever had. Because every sauce, they just say, it's the best sauce you've ever had. And it's like, okay, well, what else? Because the last sauce was the best sauce I've ever had.
Yeah.
And the one before that, and the one before
And
that.
the Guglielmo
and
sauce.
the next one. It's the
Here
best
was
sauce you've ever had.
It's the best sauce you've ever had. Do you want to show them your sauce there? I had him to bring it today.
You do make really good
It is
sauce.
amazing
though.
sauce.
Thank you.
It is very good.
But you can even see there that there's a story. So the label of this sauce has Grandpa, and it has little Paul, right? And we're picking tomatoes together.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the story from the beginning, because we knew we couldn't be the cheapest sauce. We knew we couldn't be the best sauce. And people always, when I say that, they always go, did you just say that? It's true. I always knew we couldn't be.
Wait a minute. Are you saying on this podcast that my sauce is the best sauce?
Your sauce is the best. So we had to have something different, and so we just said, well, you know what's different is the emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So like food as a love language.
Yes,
right.
food as a love
That's exactly
language.
what it is. Sundays at Grandpa's house.
Tell me about that. Tell me about Sundays at Grandpa's house.
So my childhood was spent going to Grandpa's house every Sunday for sauce, and it was Sundays at 12:30. It was just a
Cleveland?
standing thing. A town called Conneaut, Ohio. It's about an hour away from Cleveland. Conneaut.
Conneaut.
Yeah, it's like an hour. It's like Cleveland and then suburbs and then rural farmland.
Yeah.
And like meth.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Breaking Bad. It's a mixture of Breaking Bad and The Sopranos.
That's funny.
Cleveland.
Yes. I never got into that, but most of the people that I knew did.
Yeah, I've never really been into it either. I know some people get the reference. I don't.
Yeah,
I
of
make
course
it.
not. Now, how old were you when this started happening, the sauce Sundays?
As much as I can remember. I think it was happening even when I was a child. I mean, as early as I can remember. And there were times that I regret when I was like a teenager, when I was too cool for it.
Yeah.
You know, when I was like 14.
Girls.
Well, I wish girls from video games. I was
They're
thinking
video
about
game girls, right? There's
probably.
girls in video games.
Yeah, I played SimCity and like created a girlfriend or something.
I remember
I'm sure I did that.
SimCity. Oh my God, I forgot
Or
about
The Sims. That's what I was playing.
Yeah,
The Sims. And
yeah.
I was able to create a wife.
that. Yeah,
They can do that now with AI. You can go in the metaverse and
that's
make a wife.
true.
Don't know what would have happened if I was a kid right now. It would have just. It would have
Oh,
been,
God.
Yeah.
Now,
I
is
would have been
this
such a degenerate.
would have been? So
That's what I just said.
but is this the same recipe that your grandpa taught you?
It's pretty close, yeah. So it was when I first decided I was going to do this, I said, well, it's got to be Grandpa's sauce. So
Right.
I went to my grandpa's house with this little scale
Yeah.
that measured right down to the gram. And I went 3 Sundays in a row and I said, Grandpa, everything before you put it in the pot, you got to put it on this scale. So I can
How
get
old
it
were you
exact-
when this was happening?
This was later because this was when I was going to start a business.
Yeah.
So this was late 20s.
Okay, so late 20s.
20, I was probably 29 years old.
And how old was your grandpa?
He would have been 88 at that time. Yeah, he would have been about 88.
So what a full life arc he gets to see that his
Yeah.
sauce is going to become.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I have actually, and so then to fast forward, I have video of me giving him the first ever jar of sauce.
Oh, my
and
God.
I really had it, the first one that came out of the kettle.
Yeah.
The first time we ever made it, got poured, a cap went on it, and it went to the side, and that was going to
my
Grandpa.
God.
And I gave it to him. Then when he passed away, it was in his cupboard, and he had written on it, first jar, don't eat.
Oh,
What was
so
it like
cool.
making that sauce and presenting it too? Because I would have to assume it was like very was the process like a very emotional one?
It was emotional because like I don't think he believed it until that moment where there was a label on it. Because up until we always jarred sauce, amateur jarred sauce at home in the basement, the Italian basement kitchen. We had Grandpa had that kitchen, and that's how we jarred sauce. So he's like, it's not like he's never jarred sauce before. So when I was talking about I'm going to jar your sauce, it's going to be in stores. I think didn't believe it was really going to happen until that day where I showed up and there's a jar with a label on it that said Guglielmo on it, and so
is that it? Is that the actual label?
It was that exact label, that one. And I think he said something like it's a miracle. That was what he said. It's a miracle. And then he started telling stories about his mother and how he learned to make sauce.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
That is really sweet. When I showed Jared that, I don't think, because he has autism and intellectual delays, he doesn't always express what's happening until later. And when we got in the car after that scene that we just showed, he wasn't very talkative that day. I don't know if you remember.
I remember.
I think he was overwhelmed. And every time he sees you, I feel like he's not presenting the Jared that I know.
Yeah.
Because he's overwhelmed. And then we got in the car and he goes, "This is my sauce?" Like as soon as we got in the car. And then I told my dad. So my dad, he was the Sunday sauce, but it was barbecue sauce. Instead of Italian pasta sauce, it was barbecue sauce growing up. My dad is a butcher. And he, on Sundays, would grill the meats. And on Saturday nights, he would make the sauce that the vendors at the store where he worked would tell him about. And the meat would just soak in the fridge all night long. We'd go to church on Sunday mornings. And then as soon as we got home from church, which is around 12:30, he would be out in the grill. I'm from the South, and so it was warm. And he would always be grilling meats. And I always wanted his approval. Like I had that thing where he wanted a boy. My dad wanted a boy. And I was a girl, of course. And so he tried to turn me into this sports phenomenon, like I had to, just do everything perfectly, or you couldn't go in from practice unless you made so many shots in a row. And he would chase me down the sidelines of a basketball court yelling at the referees. I'm like, he was really into, me being the sports superstar. And I always felt that it kind of started me wanting to get his approval. And I became a vegetarian at UCLA. Oh. He was so upset.
Oh, man.
Like, here's this meat cutter. He thought I was rejecting him, his industry, and everything he did. And I brought a tofurkey home, my first Christmas or Thanksgiving home from college. He was mad. Like, my dad was really mad. And so I think he felt like I abandoned him in a culinary way. And so when I did this sauce, he perked up, like kind of like the giving tree. Oh, I have something I can give you now. Come sit on my, like he really loved it. And when I we loaded the back of my car. I think you may have been there that day. We loaded the back of my car with all the sauce. And then I drove that sauce to North Carolina and we did our soft launch there. Yeah. And just seeing the look on my dad's face when you told me about your grandpa, that was kind of the same thing. And I honestly think food is our love language. It is mine. And when people,
mine for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely mine.
Yeah, it's mine in good ways, but also in bad ways.
Oh, really?
Like food addiction. Like been in therapy for it.
Oh, okay.
Like absolutely.
Now, interesting.
Yeah. But sometimes it's healthy, and then other times it's just called binging.
Well, so that's maybe like the self part, but for me, like it sounds like your grandpa showed love to his family by that sauce tradition.
Yeah, right? Everyone was invited, open door, and then as we got older, it was like bring your friends, bring your boyfriends, bring your girlfriends. Yeah. It was, it really was his moment of the week where it was just open door policy. Yeah. Everyone is welcome. There was some funny behind the scenes politics though about like people not letting him know who was coming. The only thing is like he can't just like instantly create it. Yeah. So he would say how many, I need to know by Saturday night how many people are coming. Yeah. Because he always kept like frozen meatballs and stuff. And then sometimes he would get that, 11:30 a.m. Sunday phone call like, oh, my cousin Kayla's coming and she's bringing 3 friends. And on the phone he would be like, great, Kayla, we'll see you soon. He'd hang up the phone, and I always got there early to hang out with him. Yeah. And he would hang up the phone, he would be like, God, get the meatballs out of the freezer. Lucy! We need meatballs.
Lucy?
Yeah,
I love it.
Grandma,
I love it.
We need more meatballs,
Oh, that's awesome.
And what's awesome about that is that happens to me now.
Oh, really?
On Sundays, I do sauce at my house.
You do?
And my wife's family comes over a lot, and they are not punctual.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like 12:30, and there's been so many Sundays where my wife is begging me. She's like, don't put the food on the table till they're here. I'm going, it's 12:30. It is 12:30, and we said 12:30.
We got to be ready.
Yes.
Well, you remember, I mentioned this to you before offline, but the movie I just watched during Christmas, you posted about it, and I just watched it actually, called The Feast of the Seven Fishes.
Yeah.
And there's a similar scene where the guy is trying to get the fish just right, and they have to have 7 different kinds of fish for this Italian
it's
holiday.
like it's a Christmas Eve tradition. I actually don't even know all that much about it.
I think it's specific to Pittsburgh. I feel like it's kind of in that, I never heard of it.
It's one of those things like chicken parm. It's not actually Italian. It's like American Italian.
American Italian.
Yeah.
But what I loved about it was the same sort of thing where they're like, there's a whole scene where they do slow motion and describe, they get in on the actor's face and they describe all the fishes and why you have to do it. And I'm like, Southerners, we did that with moonshine. Like in my dad's family, we were moonshiners, and it was like this craft that you had to keep, secret, and only the family knew about it. And when you were when you were sick, they brought out the moonshine from a mason jar in the back of the cabinet, and everybody in town knew about it. So I think that was a form of medicinal support, but it was love. And my dad teaching us how to grill, that was love. And when people come to my house, I can't stand it if I have a guest and I can't give them something to eat.
Yeah.
It may be a problem. I really need them. So I keep a candy jar of like peppermint patties by the back door if they're coming that way. Like, at least take that. Like, I feel like I have not done my job as a hostess if I don't have something like a piece of food or a drink in the
it's just the default, and I think it works because it breaks the ice too, but it's just a default thing to do. It's just when somebody shows up, the first thing you do is offer them something to eat and drink.
Yeah, but it's also caring and nurturing. If you think about it, like in past times when it wasn't probably that easy to get food, like nowadays you can get food anywhere, an app on your phone, in the grocery store, everywhere. But in the past, people raised food. Like my grandparents, they raised all the food. They grew it in the garden, and that was it. They canned their food for the winter. And so you're giving people food. It was literally, here's my hard work over the summer. Yeah. Like wine now, that's that season's, taste and crop. So your grandpa giving you not only the history and the tradition, but actually the act of feeding you is love.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everyone gets that. Not everyone gets food as a love language. And honestly, I love my wife, 99% of the time. Yeah. But one thing is that food is not a love language for her. Okay. It's just like, I don't know how, I wish I could do this. It's just like a thing necessary to live is how she treats food. Yeah. There are times where in the summer, maybe we'll be invited to a backyard barbecue or something. Yeah. And we'll be on our way and we'll stop at Wegmans and buy like a veggie tray. And I'm like, and she'll say, oh, we're supposed to bring something. And I'm like, what? This was an opportunity. I could have made this or that. Like, I could have made something from scratch that would have blown them away. And we're just buying a veggie tray. And she's like, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it is, though. This was an opportunity.
It's funny. I think the people that are food is a love language, we probably have enough love to fill the room. My ex-husband was that way, too. I would spend all day making this really big dinner for Thanksgiving. I love to cook. And so they used to call me at UCLA because I hosted all the East Coast transplants that were out there, the hostess with the mostest. And I would have a whole table of pies. And there weren't just any pies. I had handmade everything about that pie, the crust. The first crust I ever made was like cement. It was horrible. And my grandma I remember calling my grandma on the phone as she walked me through how to make the crust. The same thing with her coconut cake and her potato salad. Like, I have those recipes in her handwriting.
That's
and I have them pasted in a little book that I made. My mother's recipes in her handwriting. But my ex is Norwegian, and I would make this, like, all-day cooking. And he would sit down and he's done eating. I'm like, and not, oh, this is good. Oh, thank you, honey. Like, food was just like, I'm busy doing something. This is hunger pain causing me to not be able to do the thing. And so I need to go. But I think that people who have food as a love language, we really do bring enough for everybody. Yeah. The love is
too much.
Yeah. And I don't mean the food too much, maybe that too, but like, we don't need other people to be foodies along with us. We got it ourselves, you know. All 4 of my kids are foodies, though. I don't know if your son is yet.
He is. I mean, he's 5, so to what extent he can be, he's still kind of picky. Yeah. He won't eat anything. I wish he would. It's
too early to tell.
It's a little too early to tell. Yeah. There's still plenty of like chicken nuggets and mac and cheese in there for him. Yeah. But he does seem interested in what I'm up to in the kitchen.
That's good.
When I'm making the mac and cheese for him, he wants to like monitor what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, you can elevate it. Like when my kids, I wouldn't do fast foods for my kids. I was very much into that health stuff. I still am.
God
And so
bless you.
I made homemade chicken nuggets with the homemade dipping and everything. And I crushed the cornflakes. Like I did all of that stuff. The best chicken nuggets I've ever had.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
delicious. I made their baby food. I didn't give them jarred baby food.
Wow,
I made it. Like I was really, really into that stuff.
We said we were going to do all that stuff, and then when he arrived, we were like, Nah.
Well, I only did that. So I made the baby food. I made the baby food for my four. I have 4 kids. I didn't do it for the first 3 because my son was at the height of autism and stuff. But for the 4th, I really went like all Earth Mother, and I grew all the vegetables. I had 7 fruit trees in the house. I had
Cool.
the white picket fence lined with raspberries, grapes, blueberries, strawberries, like everything that could grow. I was really, really into it.
Is this Southern California, or was this?
It's here in Churchville.
Oh, this was here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I remember getting a papaya and mashing it with ricotta and making a
Cool.
little papaya ricotta food for my little baby. Like I was
yeah.
really into it, and all of them are foodies. And for each holiday, they each have the favorite dish that I have to make, and I love that.
Yeah.
So for Jared, I have to make something called ambrosia, which is a little embarrassing because it's not cooking; it's mixing.
Yeah, I know ambrosia.
Yeah, I have to make it every single gathering that we have. And for my son, Grant, it is red velvet cake. It's very Southern, but he likes the red velvet cake. And my daughter likes this particular baked bread that I make. And my youngest, Julian, he used to like this omelet that I made. So they each have, and it became a part of our little family tradition because I'm from a big family down south, and it's just us here.
Yeah.
Just, the 5 of us because I'm divorced. And food is my love language to them. And when I'm gone, they'll still have those memories of that.
Yeah.
You know?
You struck a little nerve for me there. You said a word in there that brought up a bad memory from yesterday.
Omelet.
Ricotta. I'll tell you. So another way that I use food as my love language is when somebody in my life is going through something, someone passes away near them, or in this case, yesterday, a friend of mine just had surgery on her shoulder. She's going to be down and out for a few weeks. So I said, I'll make a lasagna. That's like my thing. I'll bring a lasagna.
Comfort food, yeah.
I'll bring it over. And a lot of times I'll make my own ricotta, which is actually
That's a thing?
It's so easy. It's embarrassingly easy.
Now I need to know
shouldn't-
how to do
I
that.
shouldn't explain how easy it is because it's so easy.
Yeah.
You need like a high fat milk, like a whole milk
Yeah.
or something, and then you just boil it, just rolling boil.
Mm-hmm.
Add a little bit of lemon juice, and then pass it through a really fine sieve,
Like
or
a
colander.
cheesecloth or something?
And like there will be residue. That residue is ricotta.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
Don't look at
yesterday,
me. I had no idea either.
and yesterday,
I have no clue.
So it'll build up too. You'll get a lot. When I say a little bit of it's not like it's a little bit; it's a lot.
Okay.
You got to let it boil for a while. And yesterday, I tried to do it with skim milk because it was all we had.
Yeah.
And it was a failure. No. I googled. I was like, "Can you make ricotta with skim milk?" This was when it was too late, and it was like, "Absolutely not."
Oh, no.
It has to have some fat in
So
it.
what do you put in a lasagna without ricotta?
So I used some fresh mozzarella, and
Okay.
I'll tell you the truth, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah, I did a layer of fresh mozzarella instead of ricotta, and
Yeah.
it was good.
Ooh, now my lasagna recipe, I'm not Italian, so it's obvious, I'm
Yeah.
Southern. But my mother-in-law actually gave me this recipe before she became my ex-mother-in-law, and they put a drizzle of honey on the top layer before you put, and then fresh basil leaves.
Sure, yeah,
That was
would work.
delicious.
Yeah.
It was-
honey works with Italian food
It
more than you
does.
think. I mean, it's popular now, but there a lot of pizzerias will have like a hot honey drizzle,
hot
on a
honey.
pizza. But like honey with
sounds
sauce.
delicious.
The Guglielmo brand pizza sauce has honey in it.
Has honey in
It's
it.
a great way to
Yeah.
sweeten tomatoes.
Yeah, well, so I'm taking, and you teach or you taught at New York Kitchen.
I just retired.
You just retired, and
A
we just
10-year
started.
career.
So we just started Sous Chef Academy with
Yeah.
New York Kitchen for people that don't know. Adults with autism can take a special course and get a certificate now because I simply asked them, just continuing what Pauly has done for my son's sauce. We wanted to teach him how to cook, and he really is keen on learning how to decorate cakes. And we took a class together last year, and it was like boom, 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 boom. It was going so fast, I couldn't even keep up with it. It was the Angry Chef. That was the guy that had done it. Holy cow. He definitely moves fast. And so
Yeah.
I said to him after the class, I'm like, we need something that's for people like my son because he wants to learn, and I'm willing to pay the money, but it has to be a course geared for him. And he gave me Marianne Brown's name, and we called her, and we ended up doing that. And we did meatballs the other night. But the thing is, with you teaching at the New York Kitchen for the longest time, did you find that other people are finding love and food together. Like the chef, Mary Beth is who we had. She said that after that class that she was having the most fun of her life. Like, do you find that that's true for you?
Most of the time. Yeah. Most of the time people are there. It's always date night. You know, people are always out on date night. And there's everything from couples, young couples who are maybe in fact, my wife and I had, I think it was like our third date was a cooking class at New York Kitchen.
Oh, really?
But you'll see some people that are on, kind of an early date. And then you'll see, old married couples whose kids have moved away and now they're out. But anyway, for the most part, it is. But what's adorable and kind of funny is watching how they tackle, teaming up on a meal.
Yeah.
Because I've seen couples where they really work well together. Then I've seen couples where she does all the work. I've seen couples where he does all the work. And then I have had a couple instances where I'm looking at these people and I'm going, how do they eat? Ever, because neither one of them has any idea what to do.
They order out.
They must order out every night. That'll happen every once in a while too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yes, it is a way to bond. It's a great way to bond. I think it's a great date night.
I wonder if that could be like a good...
That's a great idea. If I get if I find a date, Tinder.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if it could be a relationship litmus test, the way you do a cooking class together. Like you said, you saw them where the woman's doing all the work and the other person, like if there's a compatibility issue there.
Yeah, there can be. Sometimes there will be a sort of a get out of my way, attitude from either one, that will just say like, you just drink the wine, I'll do this, and you can tell that's just, I guess maybe they're dynamic.
Yeah,
and it's fine.
I guess everybody's different. For sure. With my son, when we were there the other night, it was the inaugural class just last week, and you have this idea that you want to do. And for me, love. If I had to give my definition of love, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, I have it as love is a service to others. I'm really comfortable making myself uncomfortable if it makes my children happy. That means I've done things I'm terrified to do, like ride roller coasters. I am terrified of roller coasters, but when my kids were little, they wanted to do that. And Jared made me, my son with autism, we went to hike Mount Von Hoevenberg in the Adirondacks at Lake Placid this past fall. And I thought I was paying for the mountain roller coaster, which is this little thing you bike up slowly. No, I accidentally said bobsled. First of all, that's incredibly expensive. For the two of us, it was $300. It was crazy. And then I get up there to the top of this mountain. It is the Olympic course with the Olympic drivers. You are going down an Olympic speed corkscrew down a mountain. I actually felt my eyes rolling back in my head. I almost lost consciousness.
They just let a regular person with no training just go on
They drive you. You're behind them. It is, and we get down at the end of the mountain, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like I thought I was going to, and Jared's like, can we do that again? Like he loved it. I loved him so much I did that. I was terrified. So those are the sorts of things, that you do. But I feel like for me, love is service. And with cooking, I feel like there's a lot of things that I watched in the class where the adults with autism that went to New York Kitchen the other night, they were nervous. They're really scared. And every single mother there was tired. We had all come straight from work. It's 5 o'clock. And we have spent our lifetime helping our special needs children just be accepted. And I could just look around the room and see happiness in every single one of those. There were 7 other mothers, so there's 8 of us total that night. The happiness that was there and the teachers going out of their way to create a special curriculum. This is way outside of what you would teach at a New York Kitchen date night. But that was love. There was so much love in that room, and they were good at it. Like these were mixing and measuring and whisking, and people out in society think, oh, they can't do anything. There's so much focus on what people with special needs can't do, and even the word itself to describe them is disability. I hate that. I hate that phrase. I say different ability. But that love language was there in every single mother in that room that showed up for their kid that day. And I'm excited to see what food can do for Jared in that community. And I know you're the incoming president of Rochester Rotary.
Yeah.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about that and what you could find to make people like my son, he's too young, he's too old for the camp. He's too old for Sunshine Camp. One of my goals, I joined the Rotary because Pauly inspired me, is how can we include people like my son in those things? Because even though he's 26, he's still 5. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
He still believes in Easter
sense.
Bunny and Christmas, Santa Claus. He sees Santa in Walmart. He goes, Santa! Just like in the movie. He's very much
great.
like that.
Yeah.
But how can we take the love that you and I have for food and for special needs kids and spread love further out there into the opportunities for these children?
Well, you bring
and
up
these
Sunshine
adults?
Camp. So anyone who doesn't know, Rochester Rotary has many functions, but a couple main ones. And one of the main ones is Sunshine Camp, which is in Rush, which is a camp for children with different abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different ability each week throughout like Memorial Day to Labor Day, like the season, But as far as like, what do we do to bring older children in, is that camp is rentable. You can rent that camp prior to Memorial Day, after Labor Day, where there's still some beautiful weather. You can really use it. You can even rent it this time of year. I mean, we're recording this in January. You're a little bit more limited, obviously, in January, but you can. My favorite thing about that Sunshine Camp, one of my favorite stories I've ever heard, and you just made me think of it when you're talking about that all the moms were tired.
Yeah.
You were so tired.
So tired.
is there was this father whose son had gone to Sunshine Camp and it was cerebral palsy week.
Yep.
So the idea behind the camp is that every week it'll be something. It might be diabetes week. It could be cancer week. It could be cerebral palsy week. But it's all the children there have the same thing going on. So they have an opportunity to feel normal because everyone they're going to interact with that week is going to have the exact same thing going on in their life that they have. And there was this father who had spoke at, I think it was a gala, like maybe the first Rotary gala I went to. And he talked about how his son had cerebral palsy, very severe, and had never been out of his watch, right? It was either him or his wife were with him 24/7.
I used to live that life.
Whole life. And somehow somebody convinced him, take your child to Sunshine Camp. So they take him, they drop him off, and he lectures the counselors. You call me. He is going to need me, and you call. And he lived in like Webster, but he got himself a hotel room as close as he could find in Henrietta, right there where he could be 2.1 miles away. And he said, you call me. I am not leaving my hotel all week. I will be here in an instant. You're going to need me. It's
Making
fine.
me cry.
Don't be embarrassed. Don't worry about it. So he leaves. It's like 3:00 on a Sunday. It's drop-off day. He starts calling at 7:00 that night because he's assuming that his son is being tortured. His son is saying, call my father, call my father. And they won't call him. And he's saying, why haven't you called me yet? Why haven't you called me? And the answer is, I'm sure you can guess the answer is, he's having a blast.
Yep.
He has not asked us to call you, sir.
Yep.
He doesn't, and it happened again the next day and Tuesday. And then finally he got the message. He's like, my kid has not asked for me this whole time.
Yep.
And then, then he tells the story as like Sunday, the next Sunday then is pickup day. And so he goes to pick him up, and his son, when he picked him up, said, I need you to call my friend, call the counselor. He's like, he was distraught that he was leaving camp, whereas this father thought it would be the other way around. So then he brought his son to camp for year after year after year. But again, back to your point about being so tired. And then he finally found, I need this week too.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly it.
I need this too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so much of our world is not set up for people with different abilities. It is. If you think about how many times do you go to an event, there's a wheelchair ramp. Right. How many of your houses are? I used to have a ramp in the back of my house, and it broke recently, and so I don't have a wheelchair ramp on the back. And I had a party, and I invited someone, and he's like, "Well, is your ramp still there?" I'm like, "Oh, no." So my house is no longer wheelchair accessible. How much of life doesn't include those special things that people need?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things about the Rotary that I love is, it is about service. It is about making the world that we're in, Rochester in particular, more accessible. And I put Blue Ridge barbecue sauce in for the vendor fair that we're having on the 30th of January. And I'm bringing Jared. I'm going to just have him to come to this because
I'm doing a booth there too. It's good to know I have some competition.
That's where our cook-off will happen.
Friendly
We'd like to have our
competition.
cook-off. That's right. But when I went to the jingle at Seneca Lake, a lot of the parents were there, and I didn't know this, had special needs kids, but they didn't bring them. And I'm not shaming them or anything, but I was surprised. Like, this is you have a business that's supporting their product, and they're drawing in some cases. Why isn't the child here? Maybe they're conditioned that they couldn't do it. But I went to CMAC with Jared, I think, 10 times last year. I think we went to total 13 concerts. Like, I bring him places, making myself uncomfortable, that thing I told you about earlier. We have to start including them. And yes, I am tired. I'm exhausted, but I want Jared to have every single experience that you have. Like you can just take your wife and kid and go to SeaWorld if you wanted to. For me, it is an ordeal to do that. Not now that he's older, but when he was little. But I always insisted on taking him everywhere. And I remember my ex-husband telling me that, oh, it's too hard. It's just too hard. Yes, it is too hard, and I'm still going to do it. And the other night was too hard for me and all those 7 other women. It was hard. We were tired. You finish work, you just want to put on your PJs and, watch TV. But we wanted our kid to have something that is lasting and meaningful. And I'm telling you, I saw them coming down the sidewalk. It was pouring rain. I saw these big smiles on these kids. No one had ever told them, we're calling it college. You get to go to college. You get to have a certificate at the end of this. And I literally started crying in front of Mary Beth at the class the other night because we had a dream and we made it, thanks to New York Kitchen, they made it a reality.
Yeah.
And you did the same thing. I mean, you show love in everything you do by you saying yes to me and Jared in our little small batches. It is small batches because there's a minimum batch and probably just, you do make
well, that's our whole shtick is we say no minimums.
Yeah.
Which if you get in the co-packer world, which is what we are, we're co-packers.
Yeah.
So, you bring your recipe to us and we can make it for you. No minimums is unheard of.
Yeah.
So it's, it is, I'll tell you the truth. We do that because it is a big deal and it is something I love.
Yeah.
I love that. And I was that at one point and people need that to exist. Yeah. There was also a really solid business opportunity inside of that because the barrier of entry to start a barbecue sauce, if you had called some of the big companies, there's a 6-figure startup fee to get started. Yep. And we can get you started for way less than that. Way less. Very
and fast. It was really fast.
Yeah. So we could, I always say we can get you started for in about 6 weeks for under $2,000.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was in our business in co-packing. Unheard of. And so that was a differentiator.
Yes.
So when you mentioned the grant at the very beginning that we won, because I got to get on that stage and say, we are a co-packer with no minimums who has destroyed the barrier of entry for an entrepreneur with a dream to start a business, specifically within like the world of retail, food retail.
Yeah.
And it has really worked. And it's not our only thing to work with small entrepreneurs.
Right.
That's one of 3 segments, I'd say. We also work with restaurants, bulk packing for restaurants. And then finally, we do specialty runs for larger regional clients.
Yep.
So the money needs to get made somewhere. It is a business we're trying to run. But anyway, the whole thing combined has been it's been a nice little run here. It's been a good few years.
You know what you said about the story selling the sauce, because everybody can make a good sauce. It's the unique story. People want to connect to I used to work in product development. Yeah. People want to hear the story behind it. Like the show Mad Men, he was a very good storyteller. Don Draper was a good storyteller. Coke and Pepsi, not that much difference. It was the story that you told, like, I would like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Yes.
I still remember that. You don't know this ad because you're a child. But
I don't know what any of this is.
It's a major advertisement campaign for Coca-Cola back in the 70s where they had people around a camp and they were all lighting their lighters. Yeah. And that was, people used to carry lighters around because smoking was a big thing. But it's the story and the visuals. That's what you had for your sauce. That's what I have for Jared's barbecue sauce. But what you just described is your business has a story. You took the product level, story level, and you expanded it to your business model.
Right.
Your entire business model has the story.
And what's fascinating about that, though, is you don't see a lot of businesses today that do that, because a lot of them have sort of seemed to like change that sort of, because like even with modern, like you use Coca-Cola as an example. I can't think of what's the last memorable Coca-Cola
That's true.
ad that you've seen.
That's a good point, actually.
Right. Because they don't really tell us. They don't really tell us. So it's either just some outrageous, like, oh, let's try and make a funny commercial, or something or it's like pushing some type of like message, or like we align with this or that. It's like, where's the story in it? Why should I care for the product?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There has to be a story. And you know where that comes from? It comes from past in radio, too. Fitzy in the other room will know this. Yeah. When you write a commercial, which was how I weaseled my own way into radio at the beginning, was that I could produce commercials. I knew how to use audio editing software, because when I was in college, I started working for the college radio station playing hip-hop music. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know this, but rappers tend to curse.
Really?
So I had to learn to edit out curse words from rap songs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I could use the software, and so I got hired in radio because I could make commercials. And then the training I received for making commercials was like, don't sell the car. Don't sell the doors and the steering wheel and the lights. Sell the feeling someone is going to have when they're driving that car on a beautiful summer day with the windows down and it's got new car smell. Sell that feeling. So the same thing happened with Guglielmo sauce, where my wife and I went to Wegmans on East Avenue, quickly got kicked out because we were
Jared's
doing
favorite.
Oh, yes?
He loves that Wegmans.
We were doing like an informal survey, and I was approaching people with a
out?
clipboard. I got kicked out by, he was a grocery manager for a long time, a guy named Van.
That's
so then we
funny.
went to Penfield Wegmans, and no one bothered us. We did it for 2 hours.
That's hilarious.
But we were asking people why they were buying sauce, because we realized when we were going to do this that we were just screwed. There's a million sauces,
Right.
and they're all cheaper, or they're better. And it was like, how are we going to ever stand out?
It's a great name too, Guglielmo. That's the sauce you want to buy. Like that is Italian as it can be.
My joke is always I'm a terrible business person. You can't spell it, pronounce it, or remember it.
But it's fun to say.
That's
I could
true.
say it all day long. Guglielmo.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we went to Wegmans and we just decided, we said, well, we were never going to say we're the cheapest because we're not. We're never going to say we're the best because that's subjective and everyone's going to think
Everyone's
differently.
subjective, right?
Yeah. And so we're just gonna tell the story of what it is to eat sauce with family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about products is it's the show Cheers. You want to be where everyone knows your name. People want to feel a part of that. And when I started advertising Blue Ridge barbecue sauce and people heard the story, the guy who does my website, he fell in love with the story and gave me amazing discount. He's like, I want to be a part of this. He goes, I want to make this a reality for you. I didn't even ask him for these discounts. He connected with the story so much. And it is a sweet story. This is a little boy who no one would hire. He sees his younger siblings all getting jobs and no one will hire him. And then he gets to go to your warehouse. He comes out of there beaming with pride and he gets to go to these places. I even bought him a little blue cart so he can go into the vendor fair. So you'll see it on the 30th. But that story is what people connect to.
Yes.
And food as a love language, just getting back to the topic, there was a story on the Today Show a couple of years ago where all these women were getting engaged because they made engagement chicken. You heard of engagement chicken?
Yes.
So I have to ask, is this how your wife got you? Was it an engagement chicken?
It was the other way around, I think. I think I made it for her. Yeah. I don't know. It dedefinitely was the only trick I had, like in my up my sleeve.
Your one-trick pony.
Was that I could maybe cook dinner for so over the years. Yeah, that was the one thing. But at the beginning with Ryan, yes. But as a love language, we have a really good story surrounding food from our early days. So I had gone on this one date with this amazing girl, my wife.
Yeah.
But it was our first date, and it was fantastic, and I was head over heels. And then I got mono.
Oh no!
And I was sick. I was down and out for days. It was terrible. I was really sick.
Yeah.
I've had COVID a few times now. One time it was
the
bad.
worst.
Yeah, mono.
Mono was every bit as bad as what it felt like to have COVID the first time I had it.
I've never had mono.
It's just it was just I couldn't get off.
It floors you, right? Like it
Floored.
floors you.
I remember laying on that couch and just desperately wanting to go into the kitchen to get water, and I could not muster the energy just to get off the couch and go into it's crazy. But
were you in college at this point?
no, I was in my mid-20s. I was in Rochester, and I was living alone, one-bedroom apartment, and I had just gotten on this date with Ryan. And I'm and so I was so scared that she was going to think I was lying. Yeah. Because it does sound like the type of thing you would say after a first date.
I got mono.
Yeah.
I got mesothelioma from a commercial. I can't make it.
Right. If you were trying to blow somebody off, that's maybe how you would do it. Oh, I'm sick. I'm going to be sick for weeks.
I'm going to remember that.
My leg got amputated. It's just a thing.
So I just begged and pleaded with her just to please believe me. I truly am sick, and I really am not just saying. And she brought cupcakes and left them at my door. Yeah.
Did she bake them?
Yeah, and so she was. My parents called her Cupcake Girl for a long time.
And for someone that is not a foodie, that's her really showing you love.
Yeah,
she made herself do service for you. That's a definition of love right there.
It was also early in the extremely early in the relationship, and she knew I liked food, so she showed up with cupcakes. I don't know if that's happening now.
She found out your love language, and she got her man through the love of food.
Yes, I think so. So it was engagement cupcakes.
Engagement cupcakes.
Now,
so is that how you knew she was the one? The engagement cupcakes.
14 years into the relationship, if I'm sick, she just tells me shut the door and don't come out until you feel better.
You're not getting shit.
Tell her tonight you want engagement cupcakes.
I will.
I once had an ex on Valentine's Day. She went to McDonald's and she bought like 40 chicken nuggets, and she made me a bouquet of chicken nuggets.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
And she came at the door. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
I want that. That sounds delicious.
It does.
A meat bouquet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. And I come from a family where like we just ate out all the time. Deanna. She doesn't really.
She seems to be more into food now.
Yeah, she's really into food now.
Because her boyfriend now likes food, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He's an amazing cook.
Yeah.
He's an amazing.
Oh, she's got to capture that one. A man
he's
that
an
can
amazing
cook. Oh yeah.
The Bellavias can't cook for shit.
Really?
Literally, like
You got to break that trend.
My Papa Bellavia, he would have a garden, but he just had it to have it. He never like used it. He had like he grew watermelons. And he would never use any of them.
He knew how to make the garden.
And he would literally just have it as like a display. And if like a chipmunk or something like came by, he'd shoot it. And we'd be like, why would you shoot this thing? He's like, because they're going in the garden. And we were like, you don't use the garden.
He's like Mr. McGregor from what was Peter Rabbit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, what are you doing? You don't use any of the tomato. You don't cook anything. And if we do cook something, Mama Bellavia would probably have like some old 1962 ketchup that she would use that she hoarded away, and she'd get everybody sick.
I bet Pauly makes his own ketchup. Do you make your own ketchup?
We do make our own ketchup, yeah.
You do?
Like the bases that we make for a lot of the sauces we make for other people is our own ketchup,
Oh,
yeah.
I have to tell you the story. I went to do the dial-in day at Craft Cannery with Pauly.
Yeah.
This is how good a businessman you are.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
No, I was expecting you not to be there that day.
Oh, yeah.
He was there testing along with me. Here's this little Southern girl who had an idea, and I gave him the recipe. Your guy went out and did the shopping, and we were there half a day. We couldn't get it right. There was just things not working. For some reason, the sauce that I had made at home wasn't tasting like what we were producing there.
Yeah.
And the
It's just different ingredients.
well, it's the heat too. I think the heating changes
Yeah.
a little bit, but it ended up being the garlic. It was garlic. He had accidentally gotten garlic powder instead of minced garlic. But Pauly was in there over the stove, like we were all like taking our little samples, and you were like that into it. To me,
Pauly's like a real Italian.
He's a real Italian.
He's not a Fugazi
but
like the Bellavias.
I was just really impressed at the amount of
Although
detail.
I shouldn't say that. We have like some real Sicilians that like kind of know how to cook, but like the rest of them just they're Fugazi. They don't know how to cook.
Because I'm going to have to learn that language. But for me, that day was love language. You're showing how much you love your business, how much you care about
Do you
the
remember
craft.
what you did that day, too? You brought like donuts from the grocery store or
Oh,
something.
that's true. That's true. I did bring donuts. Well, I'm a Southerner. Seafood is my love
Gotta bring
language.
food.
You know,
Bring food. That's right.
People when they come to my house, they know that they're going to be well fed. But anyway, this was incredibly fun. I know we're running out of time. I could talk to you all day long.
I know. I feel like we're just getting started.
I know. Is there anything you would like to add before we go?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I came in here smelling and looking terrible.
No, you look like a man who
You smell
loves his
better than
craft.
any of us. Yeah, no, I'm hungry.
Oh, you smell delicious. I have to say.
That's right. It does. You smell saucy.
We made sweet and sour wing sauce all day. Oh my God! Yeah, and I had two
sounds
call offs today, so and we're doing split shift. So
wow.
I've got 11 employees, but just for a couple of weeks to catch up, we split 5 and 5, 5 and 6 actually. So some people are working tonight during the Bills game, and my wife said I'm a terrible boss for making them work. But we're gonna work.
Yeah, we gotta work.
We gotta work. But anyway, so I had 2 call offs today. So I ended up in production today. It was very old school.
Yeah.
I don't usually get to work production all day.
Yeah.
I did it all day today, but I'm wearing like an entire bottle of sweet and
You're
sour
wearing
sauce right
your
now.
grandpa's legacy because what you just said, you said, I have 11 employees.
Yeah.
Your grandpa's dream is why you have 11 employees.
Dude, I bet that sauce is amazing too. I remember when he first opened his sauce, because you delivered some sauce to my mom to our house.
Yeah.
And we had the sauce. We used it for spaghetti. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I bet that wing sauce is going to be good, especially for the Bills game.
Look at his eyes.
Yeah.
He's all
I'm
excited.
starving. Oh, I wish I could have it.
You can actually. It's a very popular local. I guess I can maybe say it. If I get in trouble, I'll beg forgiveness.
Yeah.
So if you go to Wegmans and get sweet and sour, or they call it sweet and spicy wing
I
sauce.
have that.
That's our wing sauce.
I have that in my fridge right now. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use it on meatballs too. You don't have to do it
No,
just
yeah,
on
exactly, yeah.
wings. I just made it last week with the meatballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is for me so much fun because I think there is no dark cloud around Pauly. There is a cloud of sunshine following you everywhere. And
I'm going to get a car accident on the way home.
yeah, but I just
Your
think
mother's going to call you later. It's like, that's not true.
the love that your grandpa's family had for generations is continuing now. And so you've included my family in that. You made our dreams come true. So I just wanted to thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I was so honored to get asked to be on this podcast.
I'm honored that you came. So
Absolutely.
Anyway,
good luck with this. This is
yeah.
great. What I've heard so far is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. And we both say go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
All right. Well, thank you for coming today, and thank you for listening to Sparks of Love. Have a great week.